Alright, so alongside the Resident Evil Village DLC announcement last week, we also have a release date finally for Resident Evil Reverse. It is the same day as the DLC, so it's the 28th of October this year. A lot of people, including myself, kind of assumed that when the DLC launched for Village, that Reverse would just launch alongside it in some form of Gold Edition or Ultimate Edition of Village, which is exactly what happened. So, kind of expected it to be the case, but in terms of what they showed, they didn't show anything new. They didn't kind of go into any detail about the game itself. They just said, by the way, it's coming out with the DLC. So what we'll do today is recap the game for people who don't know what it is, go over what they could add to improve the game, and then go over things that people would like to see added to the game. An interesting reception has come from this game. I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking forward to it and think it was fun, and then there's people out there that just don't really care. So it is a mixed bag. So without any further ado, let's just jump into what Reverse is and what could be coming. So in simple terms, Resident Evil Reverse is a free-for-all deathmatch mode featuring iconic characters from the series. For example, you've got Claire, Chris, Jill, Leon, Honk, and Ada. And then on the bioweapon side of things, you've got like Nemesis, Mr. X, Jack Baker, and others as well. Essentially, it's a free-for-all mode. First to the maximum amount of points, or the highest points at the end of the timer wins. And there is a slight twist in there as well. Each character has their own unique ability and weapon. For example, Resident Evil 2 Leon has his shotgun from the PlayStation Armory, as well as his spin kick move he can do in Resident Evil 4, which, as you would imagine, does damage and knocks things back that are close to him. And then obviously you've got other characters such as Ada, who has her crossbow that she can use and it's unique to her. And obviously you've got your bioweapons as well that do certain things exclusively, like Jack Baker, for example, that you can see has his big like scissors that he uses throughout the game. And you know, it's interesting to see that they all have uniqueness. It's not just a character skin, so that's cool. However, the twist is throughout the map there are these bioweapon canisters you can pick up, and I believe you can pick up to a maximum of 3. Basically what these do is when you are killed as your hero character, for example, again, if you're playing as Leon and you get taken out, depending on how many canisters you have, you respawn as a bioweapon. The more you have on you when you die, the better the weapon is that you spawn in as. So for example, you've got like your base stage, which is like your Gamma Hunter from Resident Evil 3 in the sewers, those like chicken looking things, you've got those. The Fat Molded from Resident Evil 7, I believe, is your tier 2. And then your tier 3 can be a mix of Jack Baker, Nemesis, or Mr. X. And they all play differently and they all do different things, and it is a lot of fun to play as them. I remember way back when the beta first came out for this game, I managed to get on a couple games, and I did have a pretty good time playing it, and it is it's a fun time. It has issues for sure, but it is a fun time. The issues it had at the time, general basic multiplayer issues, I would say. Spawns were pretty weird, hit registration was pretty terrible as well, connection issues also kind of plagued the beta. It was a fun time when it worked, but there were some things that were just completely imbalanced. Some things were way too strong. There were certain characters that were just way more powerful than the rest, and it was a bit of a mess, but it was like a fun mess, you know what I mean? But yeah, the game was originally supposed to launch alongside Resident Evil Village on day 1, but was delayed until the July, which was a 2-month delay, and then when it did get to July, they basically delayed it into this year. There was a rumor that it was going to be in the March-April time of this year, which it didn't happen. But now we know that it's coming out in October. So the question is, what have they done with that like year and a half worth of time to kind of make the game more accessible, make it more like fluid and more, you know, polished? We'll go over what they could have done in that manner, as well as some things they could have added to the game as well. First and foremost, they need to have obviously fixed the connection issues with the game. It was a beta after all, so I'm not kind of judging the game there. Beta mixed with traffic trying to get onto the game, I'd imagine it would kind of have some issues there, but hopefully that's ironed out with a full release. Hit registration is a big thing for PvP. You want to make sure your bullets are actually hitting and it's fair, that you're not just like missing shots because the game said you didn't hit them. That's always a nightmare in any game like this, really. And then obviously your balancing as well. With each character having their own unique weapons and abilities and stuff, you want to make sure they're balanced and that each character is fair and can compete against other characters. I believe in the beta, it was Chris and Honk that were literally the most powerful ones in the game. And if you got a bioweapon, I believe I think it was Mr. X in the beta. If you got him, you would win. That's basically it. That's it. He was pretty unstoppable. So hopefully they iron out the balancing there. In terms of overall content on the game, obviously the beta was restricted to one map and it was the RPD. I would imagine on a full release there will be more maps. Think of the characters that are in the game already. For example, you've got Chris. Chris in this game, keep in mind, is the Chris from Resident Evil 7, so it's that character model. And obviously you've got Jack Baker as well. Thinking of maps, you know, obviously that could mean that the Baker estate is in there. Jill Valentine's in it, so maybe you've got the hospital from Resident Evil 3 remake in there as well. There's plenty of ways you could go with maps. I would really like to see like the village from Resident Evil 4, some kind of Resident Evil 5 map as well would be cool. It needs to kind of incorporate all of the games rather than just 2 and 3 remake, because this was a game that was released in terms of a 25th celebration, and it only really seemed to represent the remakes. So having a map or a mode based around kind of most of the games would be a better way to go. Speaking of modes, you know, hopefully it's not just a free-for-all mode, and they've added like a TDM, where it's like 2v2 or 3v3, or it's like a team of hero characters versus a team of bioweapons. That would be pretty cool to see. There's plenty of avenues they could take it down, especially with there being like a varied amount of characters, and I'm sure they could add more characters to the game as well. I made videos way back before Reverse was supposed to launch, and I'll talk about characters they could add, like you could add Wesker, you could add Louis Sierra from Resident Evil 4, you could add, you know, you could add Mia Winters, Ethan Winters. They could all be in the game if they wanted to be. Like, you could literally put anyone in this game, and that goes for bioweapons as well. You know, a Wesker bioweapon, Marguerite Baker, you know, Lady D, you know, all these characters could be in the game very easily and could work very, very well. Looking back on Capcom's previous multiplayer game, you know, Resident Evil Resistance, they did support that game, and the content they added to it was pretty good. Like, you got new maps, you got new characters. I think you got Nemesis as a bioweapon, and Nikolai as the mastermind, with Jill Valentine being the survivor. They came with a completely new map. There was loads of cosmetics they added to the game for your characters and weapons, which again could be really, really well implemented into this game. Think of different versions of skins for Leon, so Resident Evil 2 Leon, Resident Evil 4 Leon, Claire, original Resident Evil 2 Claire, remake Claire, Revelations Claire, Jill, you know, Jill from Ori. There's so many you could do that would just add the game, add so much more to the game, even if it wasn't like paid, if it was just like play to earn. Like, there's replayability right there, because you're earning these skins, you're earning these weapons. It would make the game more playable, and you could monetize it if you wanted to. I think every game nowadays has a battle pass system of some degree. So it could be there, and it is optional, but give people an incentive to get it, you know, give them classic skins and stuff like that, and I'm sure people would eat that up immediately. But yeah, moving on to people's kind of opinions of the game, I know that Resident Evil has a bad bastard multiplayer, more specifically your PvP and other things. Obviously you've got your versus modes in 5 and 6, which aren't that great, I will admit, and they're also pretty dead nowadays too. Umbrella Corps, which was... it wasn't really that good, let's be honest. It's still played, even now people still play it, but it was it felt a bit rushed, felt a bit kind of tacky. It's fun for like an hour, maybe 2, but it's not something you can really sit and play. And then obviously you've got Resident Evil Resistance. Resistance, I would admit, was a lot of fun while it was supported, while things were being balanced and tweaked and stuff, but nowadays, because they've completely stopped support for it, it's very much a case of, if you've been playing it since day 1 and you have all of the cards and all of the upgrades, you are basically unstoppable, because they're just like permanently OP builds now that everyone has, and to get those builds you have to play the game a lot, and it's a bit of a mess. But a lot of people will say, you know, Resident Evil multiplayer should be co-op rather than PvP. Completely agree, to be honest. I would much prefer a co-op experience over a PvP experience. For example, lately I've been playing through Resident Evil 5 with a friend of mine who just bought the game, and it's been a lot of fun to go through it again, especially with someone who is new to the game. And we're also going to be playing Resident Evil 6 as well soon, and it really is fun. So having a game like that, or like Outbreak, is much more preferred to this. But that being said, this was a fun game, not to play like hours on end, but to play it for like a couple hours, you know, an hour, maybe half an hour, just to kill some time. It was fun. So I'll be checking it out at launch, making some videos on it, doing some streams on it, maybe playing with some of you guys as well. But yeah, it is coming out in October. But that is going to do it. Leave your thoughts on Reverse down below. Are you happy it's finally launching? Are you still not really interested? Let me know. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll speak to you all in the next video.